Good morning, traders. It is Thursday, June the 27th. Taking a look at the morning charts, we've got the US dollar index. If we just take a look at this range here, you can see we're continuing to hold up into this resistance zone. The US dollar is trying to move higher, obviously, with QE possibly getting trimmed back in the future, which is going to happen no matter what. The question is it sooner or later? It's going to be bullish on the dollar, so it has been holding up recently. If we just go to the shorter term chart, go to the 4 hour, you can see here we've gone right down, ground down into support, and then boom, it had a nice explosive move to the upside, and more or less is now grinding its way into resistance. And the question is it going to stall out here and have a sharp, quick pullback, likely to give back half of these gains right to this pivot, center pivot zone. If we just draw a line right across here, that would be a pretty significant support zone. And of course we've got this rising support kind of level here where if it breaks down, we'll probably see it come down and test that mid-range zone. Could come right down into more or less the middle of this zone down here. And if we see that pullback, then we could see stocks and commodities have a little bit of a bounce in the next day or two. But overall, it's holding up into resistance. And if it does get some more juice and break to the upside, then we'd probably see it come straight up into the middle of this noise here around the 84. And that would probably put quite a bit more pressure on precious metals, and we continue to see those struggle. Looking forward, let's take a look at energy real quick. Here's the crude oil chart. You can see here we're still flirting up at this red resistance zone. If I just zoom in a bit, you can see we're right back up to that level of volume here the last couple of days. Strong selling volume. Overall, a pretty messy chart. It's really been zigzagging around here, going sideways with the occasional breakout followed by a very strong sell-off. Not looking to get involved in crude oil until we see some much stronger chart pattern. Let's just drop to the daily chart real quick. Looking at the daily chart, overall the pattern is somewhat bearish. If we just zoom in a bit here, you can see the recent. It's tough because we have seen some strong volume. If you look at the daily chart, we've had a strong move down and now we've drifted back up. I wouldn't really say drifted simply because it's actually happened on strong volume, so it's actually muscled its way back up, showing that there is support after it gets sold off. It is finding support. The fact that we had this long lower wick and another long lower wick showing prices dipped down intraday but got bought back up very strongly, closing near the highs each day, goes to show that there is some support. So the pattern here is bearish, but the volume is telling us that there's still support. Now this pattern is pointing to continued move to the downside, but again we're getting mixed signals with very strong volume accumulating crude oil at this point. More or less what we want to see is a strong move down on a rising volume, and then we want to see a drift back up, a little consolidation, and it should be on lighter volume and then followed by rising volume again as prices sell back down. But we haven't got that. We had more or less one big high volume down day, and we've seen a lot of buying and muscling crude oil prices right back up. So kind of mixed signals. That's one of the reasons why I don't really want to touch crude oil right here. Taking a look at the natural gas chart real quick. Yesterday we had a pullback. It was coming down into our a zone that looked more like a buy zone, which is right down into the support zone, the 360, 350 area. A nice 5-wave correction, and you can see the volume here. The volume spikes more or less have been selling, and showing the sellers are still in control. Yesterday we had a bit of a bounce, and this morning it continued even higher this morning, but now we're starting to pull back a bit. We'll see if it'll continue to flush itself down and pull itself down into this support zone, which is a high volume area, and from there we could see the prices put in a bottom. And as this pulls back, we're seeing more or less natural gas pull back as equities are bouncing. And a lot of times these are moving inverse to each other. So hopefully if natural gas comes down to the support zone, that means the equities market will have put in its kind of dead cat bounce, and then we'll see we'll take a short play on the equities overall in the SP 500. That should the overall downtrend should fall in favor soon, with sellers jumping back on the market, pushing prices or pulling prices down, and we'll see natural gas probably go up in the opposite direction. So we'll see how that kind of starts to play out. Keep my eye on it. Once we come down to the zone, I'll be very interested in possibly getting long natural gas. Looking at precious metals, yesterday was a big down day. Really continued to have some more selling, just continue to creep in. You can see these last couple drops here are happening on some fairly strong volume. Just looking back at the big picture, though, if you just look at these, the average price here, the trend is heading down, and looking at these volume spikes, volume is also slowly diminishing as we're making lower lows. So as prices continue to make these lower lows and they get closer together, every few days we get a new low, and it happens on lighter volume. That means more and more people are giving up and or have exited their positions in precious metals. And as this fades down and volume gets lighter, and we make even possibly another stretch down to the 1200 mark, if that happens on relatively light volume, then that could be a very significant bounce zone for gold. It's a whole number. 1200 is a pretty solid whole number, and with this volume showing how it is, it looks as though we're starting to run out of steam of sellers, and eventually we're going to have a strong bounce, which is going to kickstart a short covering rally, and we'll probably see a knee-jerk reaction to the upside, which could kick in the bottom and a possible multi-month bounce going in through the summer. Taking a look at silver. Silver chart continues to move down, still forming multiple bear flags. It looks as though it could still head lower. Again, volume on this is it's been relatively neutral. It's obviously a little elevated here simply because we're starting to push to some more recent new lows in the media, but overall still the same picture as gold. It's making new lows, and we're not seeing huge volume spikes on these moves to the downside. We're just seeing more or less a trickle effect of unwinding of a lot of long positions in precious metals, and it's just continuing to pull prices down. Eventually, once that momentum stalls, we're going to see a sharp bounce in metals. Now taking a look at miners, gold and silver miners are pretty much all moving the same. We're in the free fall mode, been selling off here for a while. Big down day yesterday, and overall still in a downtrend. We're starting to get a little long in the teeth here, looking like a bounce is near, but again, the selling momentum continues to creep into the market, and if the US dollar continues to move higher, which it's holding up into upper end of resistance, if it pops and breaks above that level, we could see miners have one more big down day, another 5%er, before it puts in a bounce. Now taking a look at bonds. Bonds are looking like they're trying to put in some type of a little bit of a bottom here. Again, it's in a downtrend here, and even though it looks like it's putting in a bottom, you'll see this pattern form over and over again. It looks as though it's trying to put in a double bottom and then work its way up. Again, you get the same thing here. Looks as though it's putting in a bottoming pattern and ready to pop to the upside, and that looks similar to where we're going right now. It looks like it's trying to put in a bottom move to the upside, but again, the overall trend is down. So these are just consolidations. If you were to zoom out on the bigger chart, you'd notice that more or less you've got to move down, bear flag, move down, bear flag, bear flag. So it just continues to stair step its way down. So we're not looking to get long bonds yet. We really need to see some bullish price action, and the fact that we're seeing prices move up and trade sideways here, and volume is actually diminishing, goes to show that this buying pressure isn't really very strong at all. It's just the lack of sellers, and the buyers are just kind of holding price up, and there's just aren't sellers active. Once the sellers step back in again, we'll probably see it continue to head lower. Looking at the SP 500, here's the daily signal chart. You can see where we are. We've got trends flipped to the downside. We're starting to get a bounce up. We're trading higher today. This morning we're trading a little bit higher. We're up about 0.5% this morning. We're going to see a price probably hopefully pop up to the 20-day moving average or fill this gap here. That'll put us right into the halfway move between this high and this low, and that'll be a 50% more or less retracement. It'll be also be a high volume zone that price will come up into high volume resistance, and sentiment will probably see a lot of short covering kick in, and we'll see volume ratio go into favor, showing that everybody's covering their shorts, and that's at the time when we want to look to get short for the next move down. So if you just look back on the charts, we're somewhere similar. We're looking for something similar to these where we get the trend reverses and you get a bounce up. More or less, we're looking almost at this one here where I think the next move, we do get this move. I think we see a very sharp move to the downside, and then that'll be almost it for the correction. I think we'll see a pretty substantial bounce, or we could see some very choppy sideways market going forward for a bit until it either breaks down again and really goes into a bear market, or it stabilizes and eventually continues to work its way higher. But again, that's far into the future, and really we can't be looking that far ahead. We got to focus on just the current price action and what's going to unfold in the next week likely. Looking at the SP 500 futures, you can see where we're trading this morning. Let me just you can see here we're working our way up to the 20-day moving average. Now this is a 24-hour chart going back several days. If I just zoom back a bit here, you can see we've had this fairly significant bounce. We're coming up to this 20-day moving average. Yesterday we closed right here. So in overnight trading pre-market this morning, we're seeing price pick up speed, and it's starting to shoot to the upside. Overall, if you look at this pattern here, it's kind of like a little cup and handle pattern. Bottom came in, got the increased volatility, bulls and bears struggling, and then we got this uptrend. It's been pausing here on this breakout, and this measured move looks as though it's got potential to go all the way up to about the 1630. If it can go to 1630, then we're coming right into this high volume resistance zone, this first layer of high volume resistance, which you can see even as a price spike right across here. And that would likely put the market into an extremely overbought condition, and we'd end up getting a sell signal for a sharp move, either back down for a double bottom or possibly even lower. Anyways, that's it for this morning, and I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye.